Welcome to West Kentucky's Cooking at the College. I'm your host, Chef Brett McCarthy, and I want to cook with you. Welcome to West Kentucky's Cooking at the College. I'm your host, Chef Brett McCarthy, and we're going to be working with apples today. It's fall, and actually I think we just had the first day of fall a couple of days ago, and we are going to be working with, we're going to do an applesauce donut, and then the kids are just going to love that. And when the kids go to sleep, we're going to do a crostata. That's something that's very nice just for the parents. So we got something for the kids and something for the parents, and I think you'll love it just a lot. And before we get started, I want to tell you what kind of apple I'm working with, and I got my little decoration here, so I'm going to have to disassemble my decoration. But we're working with a Fiji apple. A Fiji apple is a very good apple. It's slightly tart, slightly sweet, but it's excellent for stuffing. So if you're ever going to do a baked apple and you're going to stuff it, these work really well. Some apples, such as McIntosh and the Sweeter's apples, the ones that have more water in them, like the Red Delicious or whatever, they'll disintegrate on you, so you don't want to use certain apples if you're going to do a baked apple. So this particular apple stands up very nice. It's great for all types of applications, and it's very good for what we're using it for today. And it's going to be in the crostata. Today it's very easy. We got about 1.5 cups of flour here. And we're going to add a little bit of about 3 teaspoons rather, of baking powder. Okay. And this is actually a cake donut. The difference between that and a yeast-raised donut would be for like a glazed type of donut, and it's very light, and it's something that has to be made well in advance so you can leaven the dough through the yeast. But this particular one is actually chemically leavened, so works really nicely. It's very quick, easy to put together. You do have to let it sit for just about half an hour to an hour in the refrigerator, but you could make it up ahead of time, put it in the cooler, and then take it out when you're ready to make your donuts up, and it just works wonderfully. So we're going to do that. We've got a couple tablespoons of shortening. This is just regular old Crisco shortening. That's actually a commercial brand. A little bit of sugar here. We got our applesauce. And you'll be able to get this recipe on Paducah2.org. Got a little bit of salt. And our cinnamon. All right. We're going to add this flour in just a few minutes. I'm just going to give this a nice stir. I'm going to chop up that shortening a little bit. And you'll see what I have here. I have a little wet towel. Wet towel is not just good for cutting boards, it's also good to keep that stainless steel bowl stationary. So we use that. You can see this comes together very nicely. Nice color. The temperature that we're going to be frying these donuts at, which is about the temperature that most donuts are fried, even commercially, is 350 to 375. We're going to add a little bit more flour. This is about 2 cups more. Okay. Oh, and I forgot my eggs. Got to add my eggs. We're going to add our eggs right there. It's a process of elimination here. I have my assistant put it all together for me, and then I don't even have to worry about it. All right, so we're going to mix this all in. Try not to get all the flour on me. Keep it in the bowl. And you're going to have a very stiff, wet dough. And when you put this in the cooler, it's going to set up a little bit, but you're still going to need quite a bit of flour when you roll it out. But it does make an awfully moist donut. It's very tasty, and the kids would just love this right after dinner. Make that up maybe before you're about to watch a movie or something like that, and you're going to roll it out, cut them out, get yourself a little donut cutter. You can get a donut cutter online, or you can go to Acro Restaurant Supply. I always plug Acro because they're very good to me. They have donut cutters, and otherwise you can just use a biscuit cutter and just punch out a little hole with your finger, or maybe an apple core or something like that. So that works really well too if you don't want to invest into a donut cutter, which aren't very expensive anyways. And so that's what it is. We're going to put this in the cooler, and when we get back, I'm going to show you how that rolls out, and then I'm going to bring my new teaching assistant online, and you're going to see him and meet him, and we're going to fry. So we'll see you back in just a minute. Welcome back to Cooking at the College. I'm your host, Chef Brett McCarthy, and we have our dough, our applesauce donut dough. It's very, very moist, and it's kind of gloppity, so we have to use quite a bit of flour. I'm going to put quite a bit of flour down on the table here, and I like to use a little dough scraper here, bench scraper, as they call it. Okay, and we're going to put a little bit of flour on there. And we'll just kind of work with it, just as it's kind of like working with like biscuits there. And you just want to get it so that it's not too, so that it's very easy to handle. And we're going to get it till it's about, I'd say a 1/4 inch thick. And you can almost just press it out a 1/4 inch thick. All right? And then I'm going to take our donut cutter, which has a little hole for the donut hole, so to speak. This won't make enough of a donut hole to actually make a donut hole. When you make donut holes, you actually combine a couple of them together to make enough to actually make what they call donut holes. So one little piece isn't enough. And you just go like this, and you just flour it, and you'll have that just like that. And it's a pretty little thing. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the hungriest of them all? All right. Kind of looks like that. All right. Then we go like that. Aren't they pretty? So pretty. We'll just put a little bit more flour on there. And every time you do it, you can spread it out just so you can get that third one in there. All right. Woo! And it doesn't matter if they're not quite perfect. That's all right. Don't have to be perfect. We're not God. We don't have to be perfect. All right. Just have to have fun. They'll taste just as good if they're a little bit abnormal. Abnormal like me. All right. So we're just going to spread that out. And you see I'm just gathering that dough up and just pushing it around. I'm not being too rough with it. I don't want to actually get the flour in there. I don't want to change the consistency of the actual dough. So I don't want to put much flour. I'm just keeping the flour on the outside. Okay? Just pushing that out. Okay. Now, if you had a small donut cutter, you could do those little tiny donuts. It'd be nice right there. And when we get back, I kind of fibbed because I said you'd meet my new assistant in the next scene. I'll actually be in the third scene. So I'm going to meet Brian, who's my new teaching assistant. So happy to have him on board, and we're going to have him help us fry those donuts up. So we'll see you back in just a minute. Welcome back to Cooking at the College. We are at our little fry station here, and I have Brian Vaughn, who's my new teaching assistant. Come on down, Brian, and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Brian Vaughn. I'm his new teaching assistant, as he said. I'll be here helping him cook the donuts.
So what temperature are we going to be cooking the donuts at?
You want it at around 375 degrees.
And about how much time are we looking at for the whole donut process?
Once they rise up, they need to cook at about a minute to a minute and a half on each side.
So basically, we're going to put them down. You only turn them once, and they're going to puff up a little bit. Then you'll turn them, and then they'll be done. If you don't put them in long enough, or if your oil is too hot, they'll cook on the outside very rapidly, but they won't be done on the inside. If it's too cool, they'll never puff up, and they won't be like we expect donuts to be. So how we ensure that we get the exact right temperature is we have a candy thermometer here, and that just hangs on the side right there, and we keep that, and we just adjust the heat. Now, I've been able to maintain it between 360 and 375 degrees by simply regulating the temperature and making sure I have it just right. So if you get it between about 360 and 375, you are perfect. So Brian, I'm just going to put one in, and then you can, I'll do the stickier one. Sometimes they get real sticky, and you just drop them in like that, and they're going to actually pop up. And what you do is you just kind of move them just a little bit, and you see they just move right in there. I'll just do another one there. And Brian, why don't you do the rest of them?
All right.
Okay. And having a little flour on your whatever you're putting the cutout donuts on helps. And just take this and move it around just a little bit. You can see they're floating up there. I think I got, there we go, there's the other one. All right, so we're just going to let them fry for, I don't know, 30 seconds or so, and then we'll turn them over. And they're awfully pretty. They just puff right up. They're really, really nice. Of course, in a commercial type of donut operation, they would have mixes that they would use that already are ready to go, and they simply have to add water to them. He's going to just turn those right over. One of my favorite donut places in the whole world is Munnell's. They have a coffee roll. They call it a honey bun around here, but it's a huge honey bun. It costs like $2, and it's about as big as a basketball as far as size across. So we're going to just let that cook for about another minute there. You can see they're just nice and brown, nice and puffed up, pretty looking. At this point, if you wanted to do different things, you could do different glazes. Once they cool off, we're going to just dust them with a little bit of cinnamon and sugar. But there's so many different things you can do with them. You can garnish them, maybe even put a little bit of like a chocolate on there. You can do all kinds of fun things with that. You could do sprinkles on there, make them kind of festive with a little Halloween type of theme, chocolate, and then some of those little jimmies, as we call them up north, little jimmies on top, Halloween jimmies. Okay, so we're going to just take these out. And just make them nice and pretty there. You can see how pretty those are. They're just gorgeous. See how nice they've just puffed up so beautifully. All right. And you can say you made these from scratch. So this is really nice. And when we get back, I'm going to show you how to display these, and we'll see you back in just a minute. Welcome back to Cooking at the College. We're going to get back to the donuts in just a minute, but now we're going to make a nice pie dough, and this is for that crostata. Crostata is just kind of like it. It's an Italian open pie. It's very thin, almost like a pizza pie, and except that it uses pie dough rather than pizza dough. And essentially, we roll it out and we put it on a stone, or at least I'm going to put it on a stone so I get a nice crispy crust. And we're going to fill that with apples and then just kind of fold over then I'll show you how this is done, so it's not just my hands moving around. But we're going to fold the pie dough over just around the edges, and so you're going to take it out. Then we're going to drizzle some nice caramel sauce over it, and it should be served right away. It's just beautiful. Okay, so we're going to start with some flour here. All right, a cup and a half, something like that. We got a little sugar there. All right, we got the butter. And all the recipes will be on Paducah2.org. You'll be able to get the recipes. So that's why I'm not telling you exact amounts, because quite frankly, I don't remember right at this point. One of the producers of this show asked me where to get those candy thermometers for the oil. And you can actually get them at like a Michael's or a Hobby Lobby, where they would sell Wilton products, which Wilton makes all kinds of things for cake decorating, and you could find that where you would make candies. So that's where you can get that. And it's a special one. You don't want to use just any kind of thermometer, because other thermometers will not go up to the right temperature. This one goes up to 400 degrees. So very, very important. Now you see I'm just breaking up that fat using a pastry blender. All right. By the way, I really like this kind of pastry blender here. It's much firmer. It doesn't bend. All right. Okay, and then we're going to add a little bit of, I'm just going to go out of camera for a second here, and we're going to add a little bit of water to this, just about 3 tablespoons. And Brian, can you get me a wooden spoon? I like having an assistant ready. Sometimes I don't have an assistant, I end up running around. So we got 3 tablespoons. You'll see that I'm using ice water. That helps keep the fat from getting too warm. Thank you, sir. And it's just like that. Okay, now it's going to seem kind of dry at first, but as you bring it together, it'll come together very easily. And so if you add too much water, you're going to end up having a very wet pie dough, and you're going to have to end up adding more flour, which will affect the texture. We just did pies yesterday, and if you overwork pie dough, just like if you overwork a biscuit, it'll get very tough. So if you want a nice flaky pie dough, you just don't mess with it too much. So don't mess with it. Just make the pie dough and be done with it. Okay? People want to, you stroke the cat too much. You know that saying, you kill it. So, of course, I could never kill my cat and stroke him all day long. He won't die, but that's a whole nother story. All right, so we got a little bit, and I'm just going to put a little bit of flour here. Then you're going to leave this in the refrigerator just for about half an hour or so. Half an hour, just let it set up. You don't want it to get too hard. And then that's it. So that's ready to go. You just put that in a bowl and it's done. Okay? So when we get back in just a few moments, I'm going to show you how to roll it out, and we're going to stuff it, and we're going to put it in the oven and mark it with a B for baby and me. We'll see you back in a minute. Welcome back to Cooking at the College. I'm your host, Chef Brett McCarthy, and we have our dough here. And this is our pie dough for our crostata, which is like an Italian dessert. And what we're going to do is we're just going to roll that out, and I got my rolling pin. Now this will injure somebody, I'm telling you. I don't want to be on the receiving end of this thing. All right, so we got this. We're just going to roll that out just like that. All right, and we're going to turn it over. A little bit more flour here. A little bit more flour there. All right. We'll roll it out. We're going to do it at about, 1/4 inch, not even, thickness here. Maybe about 1/8 of an inch here. You can see that's about 1/8 to 1/4. All right. And the nice thing about this is it don't have to be perfectly round. That's what makes it kind of homemade-ish. Homemade-ish, that's my word of the day. Homemade-ish. Kind of like Groucho Marx. The little duck's going to come down and say, you just won the big prize for the word of the day, homemade-ish. All right, so we're going to put a little bit of apples. We've got apples. We've got about 6 apples there. Okay, those are those Fiji apples. We're going to put a little flour in there, a little sugar in there. It's about 1/2 cup of sugar. I'm not going to use all that, all right? I'm just going to go like this, just like that. Okay, now what the flour is going to do, it's going to help absorb all those juices and make a nice sauce. All right? All right? I'm going to have to wipe my hands here. This isn't a good thing here. Okay, and we're just going to put this in the center. This is just going to be absolutely beautiful. You're just going to be like gaga over this. Okay, then we're going to just fold this just like that. Okay, and you see how I'm kind of just folding it in like that? Just like that. Just like that. You're just kind of keeping it open right like that. And then more sugar and cinnamon. And we're just going to sprinkle that just like that. All right? I'm going to take a couple, I'm going to take my little, woo! Now this was my idea to use a stone. The recipe didn't call for this. But I'm a smart guy. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Okay? And we're going to take this. Woo! Just put it like that. Look at that. And that's going to go right in here at a 400-degree oven. And when we come back, we're going to take that out. We're going to drizzle it with caramel. It's going to be ooh la la good, and I'll see you back in a minute. Welcome back to Cooking at the College. I'm your host, Chef Brett McCarthy, and we are ready to take the crostata out of the oven, and this thing is just absolutely gorgeous. I couldn't do better than myself, I'll tell you, if I were myself all the time. All right, so you can see that's just bubbling away. That's just some of the liquid that's poured out of it. It's just gorgeous, gorgeous. We'll turn that oven off. And essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to take that, just like that. And we're going to put it right on there. Isn't that just the prettiest thing you ever saw in your life? Now watch out, this is really, really hot. Okay, so we'll put that right over here. Okay, and something you should know, when I do apple pies or anything like that, even when it doesn't call for lemon juice, I put a little bit of lemon juice. And in this case, these apples, how I kept them from turning brown while we were waiting is I used fresh lemon juice and just tossed them with lemon juice. You don't necessarily have to put them in water because then you got to drain all that water off. Just toss them with lemon juice, fresh lemon juice if you can. That'll add to the flavor and it'll kind of cut that sweetness, so it's kind of a balance between the tart and the sweet, so it's not a sickly sweet kind of thing. So sometimes things can get too sweet. And then in addition to that, I took some plastic wrap and I put that over the apples to keep the oxidation. Unfortunately, that's what turns apples brown, is that they get oxidized. The tartar the apple, the less brown it's going to get. So more of your Golden Delicious and your green apples and your Granny Smiths and things like that, they're not going to turn brown as fast as something like a Macintosh or something that is sweeter, on the sweeter end, okay? So what we're going to do is we're just going to take a little bit of caramel sauce, all right? And we're just going to take that just like that, and we're going to drizzle that. And that's just pretty. I mean, that's restaurant pretty, I'm going to tell you. All right, just like that. And you actually can take a little bit of cinnamon sugar. Just put that just like that. And if you wanted to, and I didn't do it this time, you could take a little bit of cinnamon sugar and put it on the dough when you're putting it on the apples. Okay, now we also have our donuts here. And our donuts, I just zapped for a couple of seconds in the microwave just to warm them up because they're really nice when they're warm. And then I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to toss them just like that. Okay. And we're going to get Tammy, our producer, over here. I'm going to let her try some of these. That was pretty neat how you went over the table like that. That was cool.
In a dress, no doubt.
In a dress, no doubt. I'll tell you, it was very, very graceful. Okay, so we're just going to taste this, and what we're going to do, this is Tammy, one of our producers, a lovely woman she is. And
that smells great.
we'll just see how this tastes. All right.
Okay.
And you usually want to let it set up for just about a few minutes, and it'll just come out much better that way, just to let it set up. But it is to be served warm. This would just be an absolute. Why don't you try this donut first? This would be just an absolute wonderful thing for
Those
like
are
a
so good.
like a special. I'm going to just use this bowl real quick. You know, like put this in the center of the table when you're having a dinner party or something. I think this would just be, but look at how nice that just comes out, just like a pie. It's just like it's very pretty. So just looks nice. It's got a lot of the glaze. You can take a little bit of that glaze. That and just have that maybe with some nice apple cider. I mean, we could just go apple all day. And ice cream, of course. Yes.
Now, I got
How about like
scalded the one time. Is this
This is so hot that it's going to burn the inner lining of your mouth off, okay?
Well,
but
you
you
get the
have
first
another
bite.
but you have another lining underneath, so it's okay. So wow.
That is really good.
Isn't that tasty? And look at just taste the crust. How nice that crust is.
And you can taste the sweet and the sour a little bit.
And you got a little bit of softness, but you got the flakiness of the crust, and just blow on it.
Yeah. It was really good. Check this.
It's a nice crust. Well, you've seen crostata here, applesauce donuts. Have a lot of fun with apples. There's so many different recipes out there just to have fun with. And we put our own little spin on it. Someone was asking me about, you know, if I use my own recipes, and most of the time I use my own recipes, but a lot of times I just put my little twist on a particular recipe and make it my own. So make recipes your own, and I want to cook with you.
Stand by. In 5, 4, 3.
Sides are